Hello guys, welcome to Red Lights Off. Today I'm going to talk about Baku. Baku circuit is one of the most challenging and setup compromising circuits in the calendar. It's very challenging for Formula 1 drivers, Formula 1 engineers. So if you want to know why or you are interested about this topic, please stay on. So Baku is a unique circuit because it combines the longest straight of the calendar of the season, over 2 kilometers flat out, and one of the tightest sections of the track that is on the sector 2, the castle area. For race engineers, what does that mean? So it means that it's a setup compromise because you have to combine Monza level drag reduction and Monaco level precision or mechanical grip setup. So now I'm going through a general setup. I'm going to do a sector by sector analysis, and finally I'm going to talk about tires and strategy. So if we talk about aerodynamics, drag sensitivity is going to dominate in Baku. We have one of the lowest downforce levels of the gear, very similar to Monza. So the rear wing are going to be trimmed very close to Monza specification. There will be small flap angles and low drag beam wing setups. Okay. The front wing is going to reduce accordingly, but we will still target around 45% aero balance at medium speed because we have to maintain the front axle alive in sector 2. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that the car is going to be extremely slippery in a straight line, okay, because we'll have high speeds, but it's going to be mechanically less forgiving in the city section, sector 2, and this is the fundamental trade-off of this circuit. When it comes to suspension and ride height, so in the case of the ride height, it's going to be lower than most street circuits. So usually we'll have a higher ride height in circuits like Monaco, Hungary, because we have to go a lot through bumps, braking zones and curves. So it's going to be a low ride height, sort of similar to Monza, but a little bit higher, okay? Because we want low ride height for the straights, but then without compromising that sector 2, okay? So we're talking about probably 2 to 3 millimeters more clearance than a pure low drag setup like we could have in Monza, for example. So on the front axle, we will have stiffer spring and anti-roll bar, especially to control the pitch under the turn 1 braking. It's one of the highest, as well as 4.5 G. We also have turn 3, which are heavy braking. So we also need that stiffer front roll bar, and obviously we want to give that sharper response in the castle section, sector 2. At the rear, the setup is going to be a softer spring, softer anti-roll bar to improve that traction out of the 90 degrees that we have at the beginning of sector 2 and also sector 1, those corners. So we need to help the tires stay in contact when running over the curves. So when it comes to tires and camber, tires, Pirelli is bringing the softest tires. So we'll have a C4 for hard, C5 medium, C6 the soft. Baku in general is a very longitudinal track, okay? So it dominates a lot of braking and traction. The lateral lows are quite low compared to other circuits, like for example we have in Silverstone, very high speed corners, okay? So lateral lows are higher in there, but in cases like Baku, we've got corners, but they're 90 degrees and they're quite of slow corners. So lateral lows are low. Pirelli is mandating camber limits of -3 in the front, -1.75 on the rear. To be honest, I think the teams are gonna run slightly less, so not that aggressive, because they want to improve tire life and the reduce rolling resistance on the straight. So when it comes to pressures, FIA has a minimum starting values of 27 psi on the front, 26 psi on the rear. So what that means is it means that the teams cannot go below this at tire blanket release. So in running with temperature build up and so on, we expect those pressures to go up or to rise by 2 to 4 psi. So effectively, the pressures at the race will be up around 29 to 30 psi. This will reduce the contact patch, which is not ideal for sector 2, but it protects a lot of the carcass in the straight, where we will reach speeds of over 320 kilometers an hour. When it comes to differential, this is very important for the drivers. So there will be a lot of differential changes and brake changes through the lap, okay, to optimize that lap time. So in this case, the differential is going to be tuned asymmetrically, okay? So this means that there will be a big difference between the off-throttle lock and on-throttle lock, okay? So when it comes to the off-throttle lock, it's going to be relatively high, okay? Because we want that braking stability into turn 1 and 3. So let's say sector 1, sector 3 will have off-throttle locking at high 50-55, and then the on-throttle lock is going to be reduced, and that's going to make the car freeze the car on the exits of those 90-degree corners. So it will rotate out better the tires and will tolerate the inside wheel slip. Okay. So basically, what we want to achieve is a balance between a confidence on entering a corner without a lot of understeer on the exit. And last but not least, we talk about the brakes. Okay, so Baku is one of the highest brake energy circuits. So there are 6 major braking zones. We have turn 1. It's one of the highest of the season. It will require sort of 2,000 kilojoules in that stop. So these trays will allow a lot of recovery. So we are not to worry about overheating in this circuit, overheating the brakes. However, as we've seen in previous Grand Prix, that accident in 2017 with the Red Bulls, or Hamilton Verstappen as well, 2021, it's very common to have a front lockup, okay, in turn 1. And why is that? Because on sector 3, we are mostly accelerating, we don't touch the brakes, and it's a very long straight, the longest of the season we've set. So what happens is that there is no pushing brake or pressing brake for long time, so this will allow for brakes, or it's easier for brakes to get into that glazing, so it means that this will cool too much because of that straight, and you can have a front lockup. Okay, front lockup will cause a tire flat spot, which can have an issue on the tire life. Okay, so brake migration in this circuit is heavily used, okay, by the drivers, and we will see a lot of changes between sectors, adjusting that braking bias. And now I'm going to talk about the lap sector by sector analysis in Baku. Okay, so we start with the sector 1, start here on the start line, finish before turn 5. We arrive from the straight at a very high speed here at turn 1, more than 340 kilometers an hour. Okay, very heavy braking turn 1. This is very important to avoid front lockup, as we were mentioning before. It's very easy to get a flat spot there and sacrifice the tires through the whole lap or in the race. It will destroy your strategy. Then we move into turn 2. Not much speed here, so here it's important just to be wide open to come out with high speed. Turn 2 to 3. This is a very important straight. There is a lot of overtaking happening here, because there is a DRS as well. We arrive more than 300 kilometers an hour into that corner, so it's a lot of heavy braking as well. Heavy braking. We move into the 90 degrees corner 3 and 4. important to come out with good traction here, and then we arrive into turn 5. We move into sector 2, where traction is going to be the most important thing here. There is a lot of 90 degrees corners as well, turn 7, turn 12, 15. Castle area as well is important to have a good traction. So the rear suspension has to be softer because we need to give compliance and have the tires bite without snapping the loose of the rear, and also that differential change on-throttle, off-throttle is going to be really important. That's why there will be a lot of tweaking from the driver's side, okay? Because we need to allow the car to rotate a lot out of those corners, but without push a lot of understeer, okay? So the front end is going to be a stiffer and rubber spring, very important, especially through the castle area, turn 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Right height, again, compromise. We want it low for the big straight, but in here it's important to avoid those curves, especially in turn 7, because the car will be running too low, okay? So this is from turn 12 to 15, very high speed part of the sector. Then we have a lot of medium to high braking as well in turn 15, very important. And then we move into sector 3. Turn 16 is one of the most important. This is, according to many drivers, they say this turn is the one that could cost them multiple turns, okay? Because we go into the high speed area, okay? 18, 19 also very important, but we will be mostly flat out. So we want to come out of 16 very well. We have to avoid that wheel spin of the tires here. So the rear suspension compliance and difference balance are very critical to achieve enough locking to stabilize, but loose enough to be able to commit to throttle when we come out of that corner. So we move into last sector, which is basically flat out. There is a lot of overtaking as well in that area. Yeah, we arrive to the end. In here, tires cool on the long straight, so warm up is tricky after safety car, and we've seen a lot of accidents in turn 1, also after restart after red flag as well. So it's important to control that by the drivers. When it comes to a strategy now, the tire wear in general here is low, okay? The reason of that is that the asphalt is too smooth against a street circuit, so there's not a lot of abrasion. We can see it as well from the Pirelli document. This is one of the lowest abrasion, probably lowest with Monaco. But we can see that because of the lateral lobe being minimal and the asphalt very smooth, the tire wear is low. The only problem that could cause into the drivers is that because of that turn 1 braking and turn 3, there could be a lot of flat spotting, and that could compromise the strategy. So this is very important to be looked at by the drivers, okay? The baseline race strategy will probably be one stop, medium to hard. Maybe there will be a 2-stopper starting with the soft and do a hard, try to get into the end and put another soft in the end, but I really doubt that will be the case. So medium to hard probably is the best strategy in this case. The soft tire will be qualifying only and safety car gamble if it happens. Safety cars are very common in this circuit, okay? More than half of the races we have here safety car, so it's important to have fresh soft tires or fresh mediums or something in the back to be able to have a good end of the race, okay? As we were saying, tires wear is low, but track evolution is extreme, okay? So again, because of the circuit, the asphalt is smooth, but the more rubber accumulated through the weekend could have a big track evolution. So there will be a lot of time improvement through the sessions, especially Q1, Q2. We will see huge evolution, so it's important also to have good strategy and qualifying. And yeah, I think in general that's what Baku is. So as a summary of this circuit, we can say that Baku is about managing opposites. Okay, we have a very long straight, the longest of the season, so the car is trimmed out on the rear wing, like in Monza, but then we also have a lot of mechanical grid setup required for the street circuit, the middle sector area. Okay. There will be compromises in ride height. We want low ride height, but we also want to avoid those curves. Suspension, differential setups, a lot of tweaking during the lap by the drivers. Okay. Cambers and pressure are dictated by Pirelli's limit a little bit, but they will also be important. Okay. And I think, yeah, from a racing engineer perspective, the lap time doesn't come much from sustained cornering, but from the discipline in braking into turn 1 and 3, and also traction management, especially in turn systems. We said already, okay, on the analysis by sector. So high speed, heavy braking mixed with a city circuit precision. So that's what makes Baku special. If you like this content, please turn on notification, subscribe, and see you on the next one.